everybody's like, if you're not a tax person, you shouldn't know this stuff. Like, this isn't stuff that is just common knowledge. So
Mhm.
don't be afraid to ask the stupid questions.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Behind the Booth. I'm Jade, and with me, as always, is my co host and producer, Heather.
And on this channel, we talk about wild tales from Comic-Con vendors because Jade has her own booth, Tokyo Dog Designs, and I am her support as well. We would love to meet you. We're very colorful. We will have our list. We are. I'm at the booth, but also we're very
We're
colorful. We're
very
just
colorful too.
goofballs. Yeah. And we would love to meet you. We'd love to talk to you, see you in person. And we will have a list of all the conventions that are coming up because in June we have a ton. But we're really excited and we hope to meet some of you guys in person. But as for today, we're actually going to talk about some of the stuff that is not fun to talk about, but you have to do it. Like, you have to think about it. And I love Jade because she thinks about this stuff that, like, my brain, I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But because I've been around you for so long, I'm finally figuring out my taxes as a business. Like, it's stuff like that. But anyway, we're talking about taxes and insurance today. That's the fun stuff that we're talking about, but it's got to be done. And so we want to make sure that you guys have the correct, like, information so that you're doing this in a good way and can actually, we want all of you to have fantastic booths and to sell all of your product and just be
And
like,
not get arrested. Yeah.
yes, I know, right? Like, how
Or not
ridiculous
get
is
kicked
it that
out.
they're just like, oh, you did this wrong, we'll arrest you. Well, then tell me how to do it right. So we're gonna tell you how to do it right.
So, talking about this, just full disclosure, math is not my thing. I actually do have somebody who professionally does my taxes. So I'm not going to talk to you about 1099s and W-4s and blah, blah, blah. What I'm going to share with you is what is required of us at various booths and various events. So this will all depend on what state you're in. So definitely look up the code for your state. Um, Coming out of Colorado, when I do events in other states, sometimes the tax assessor's office will be at the booth on the last day. So that's typically a Sunday for us. And they will be there to collect the taxes on site. Not everyone does this. When it is done, there's a few things to keep in mind about it. So one of the best ways that I keep track of my taxes is actually through my credit card app. You can enter in the exact tax rate and do it to the exact decimal. So I messed this up already once in Vegas, where I thought the tax rate was 8.2, because that's what, when you Google it, that's what it is. But it was actually 8.235. And that made a
Mm.
difference in what I actually had to pay at the end of the day. I think it was only by a dollar, but I wanted to make sure that I do it correctly, because math is not my friend. But a lot of times when you do your Square reports and things like that, Square is what I use. I know there's Stripe. I know that there's Clover. There's a lot of other options. Look at what works out best for you. But with Square, I can actually go by a sales report that will show me how much is collected in taxes. So when I have that sales report, I take a screenshot of that, and they will have a form for you to fill out, a very, very sexy form. And it will ask for things like, if you don't have an EIN, which a lot of businesses don't have, especially when they're starting out. In Colorado, the EIN I think is only $50, depending on the state that you're at when you're filing for it. It can definitely range in different things, but they'll either want that or your social. And so you need to be able to put that down into the form, have the address that is actually connected to your business, not your home address. Make sure you get that right. I've seen a couple of people do that wrong, because
Oh,
if they make a
interesting.
mistake, if they overcharged you or if they undercharged you, they will send you a receipt saying you owe us more money, or they'll send you a check that says we overcharged you. I have received a check for $8, which was adorable, because I overpaid
Like,
my
thanks.
taxes. That's something I always do. I always overpay because I don't want to get a fine or a fee.
Yeah.
Sometimes the fine and the fee is more than you would have paid in the taxes. And I would much rather get money than have to have it. I mean, again, if you have the money to do it. So you should, according to the government, and by the way, IRS, CIA, if you're listening to this conversation, we're good and we're perfect and we don't do anything wrong, um, like ever, so don't arrest us. But typically speaking, you need to always collect taxes. You can wrap it into the price or you can charge it separately. That is up to you. And there are different toggles that you can press on Square or Stripe or whatever that can do that for you. If you include it in the price, you need to keep track. That is 100% on your ass. If you put it on the outside of the price, which is what most people expect, unless you're in Oregon, which it needs to be included, um, because that's how they do their sales tax out there. It's actually kind of cool, but weird. Um, you know, you need to be accountable for that. So when I was in New Orleans, they actually had a tax assessor, a team of tax assessors. There's like 15 of them. And they said, we're going to be here from this time to this time. And the event planners usually will tell you, you need to pay your taxes. They'll give you heads up. And they'll be like, they're going to be here from this time to this time. You need to get it done. If you don't get it done at this time, there will be a fee, and then you have to go to their office. Well, a lot of us leave on Sunday night, so we can't go to their office. And then, you know, there's things that happen, there's repercussions. I have not received those repercussions, knock on wood, yet, because I've been really on top of it. So they had people there that were literally the nicest people I've ever met. And I said, listen, I'm numbers dyslexic, which is a true thing. I was like, I was sweating, like my ass was sweating. It was disgusting. I was so stressed out because I didn't want to do it wrong. And like I said, I hire somebody to do my taxes for me, so I don't have to sweat and do it incorrectly. And they walked me through the form. And a lot of times they only take cash or check. They will not take a credit card. So I always have a checkbook, at least a couple checks in my
Oh, interesting.
my carry-on bag. Yeah. So I paid them in cash and we counted out together. I felt like I was in third grade. I was like, 1, 2, 3, 20, 40, 60. And then they counted it back to me. And then they give you a physical receipt. And don't count on keeping those receipts because shit gets lost. As soon as it was done, I do this every time I pay for something in cash. That's important like this. I take a picture of the thing and a picture of the person and the thing in front of them.
Yeah.
And so like when I re-sign up for booths and things like that, and it's all done in cash, because a lot of times there's an incentive for signing up, you know, on that same Sunday, I fill out my form, I pay the money, I take a picture of the person, I take a picture of everything. So if I ever need to find it again, I can. And then I upload those pictures to my receipts file that I have in Google Drive.
There you go.
So that way it's all together. And if they're ever like, oh, you know, do you have proof of what you paid? Because I mean, they got a lot going on. I'm like, yep. And it was with this person, and here's their face.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, anything that I can do to keep track of shit, because there's a lot going on.
Right.
And then, you know, a lot of times for local events, you need to have either a temporary sales tax form that you have to fill out, or you have to have, I actually have this one right here. I have one of my single event sales tax licenses. Don't look at the numbers.
Oh my goodness.
You know, and when you do events, especially local events like farmers markets or anything like that, and even I'm doing NDK here in September, I have to have that at my booth because an assessor might just show up and they'll ask to see it. And if you don't have an ability to show them this, then they will shut you down. And when I shut you down, I mean, they literally will have security booth you if you do not leave.
Yeah.
And you do not get a refund for your booth. You don't, because you did not have your shit together. So they will ask you to leave. If you didn't pay the right fines, or not fines, the right application stuff, they will ask you to leave. Also, another person that can ask you to leave at any time is the fire marshal. If you do not comply with something that they need, if you're too close to an exit, if you have something that's contraband, they can ask you to leave and you have to go.
Boy.
Yeah. So just knowing that these things come up, it's not exactly a sexy topic with taxes. But one thing to keep in mind, and it's what was brought to my attention this year, is that when you pay for these things, you pay, I think this one was $5. This is $5. So I can pay $5 or I can have my booth shut down for the entire day. Is that you can write that off in your taxes, apparently. Now, again, I'm not a tax person. Do not quote me on this. Do not take me to court, because I will say that I gave the disclaimer that I'm not a tax person. But in my taxes this year, this is paying for tax. This is paying for events. So I was able to write off some of it. I don't know the extent of what we were able to do, if it was 10%, 20%, 50%. And the thing is, when you do your taxes, if you do it wrong, they'll tell you. And then you can be like, sorry, I'm dumb. And then as long as you try to fix it, they are super flexible. They're super chill. And I tell them, listen, this is not my thing. I am an artist. I am not a math person. But every government official I've ever talked to has been super helpful. At the last event I was at, an outdoor event, they actually brought me a packet of the sales tax for different counties. And depending on where you live, some counties don't charge an additional sales tax, because I already have this piece of paper. I don't have to charge it again. And I don't have to apply for anything, but they'll have a whole list. They tell you what the rates are, what you need to do, who you need to submit it to. It's very, very simple. So you can always ask for that information, and by law, they have to provide it for you.
Nice. Have you, in your experience, like at expos at conventions, have they been helpful with like helping you figure this stuff out, or did you have to like kind of scramble and figure all this out on your own, or do they have like, because somebody just starting out, like they don't know all the, like, I mean, just listen to this podcast, we'll tell you, but
Yeah.
like they don't know where to start or what things they actually do need to gather.
Yeah, so I didn't know any of this stuff. I came from a business that was service based, not item based.
Yeah.
And when I mean, I didn't even know that I could write off my booth fees at the end of the year because it's part of your operational costs. And
Yeah.
so I read 2 books on taxes. I did a lot of research and I contacted the Department of Revenue here in Colorado. And for my specific city, which is
Mhm.
Thornton, Denver, depends. Sometimes I have to contact different people because I'm right on the edge of
Yeah.
Thornton and Denver. So it depends on who they group me with. Apparently, if there's a fire or something, it's Denver that comes to save me. But if it's taxes, it's Thornton. So, figure that out.
You know.
Um, I had to research all of it. I had to talk to my tax guy, and we had to learn kind of together because I was shifting businesses on what we were doing. But the best thing you can do is just send them an email and ask your question. And if they don't understand your question, they'll come back to you and say, "We don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Be more specific." Or
Yeah.
they'll say, "Here's a link." A lot of times they will copy something into you, send you a link, and then say, if you have further questions, you can make an appointment. And the appointments are free. So
Mm.
you just have to get off your ass and show up.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're phone appointments. They're not Zoom. You don't have to brush your hair. You can just get on the phone and be like, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. I don't understand." And it also depends on how much money you're making. If you're not making a lot, then you have a different bracket you fall into. If you're making a certain amount or if you're just on the cusp of something, they'll tell you. So learning this stuff was tough. Always check with an accountant, check with somebody who's a specialist because this is not
Yeah.
something you want to mess with. Um, I'm not saying we were joking about going to jail. You can absolutely go to jail for fucking up your taxes, but you have to really be trying to get out of paying. You have to really be doing it wrong. For the most part, they're very forgiving. I have done things wrong in the past, and they have waived fees for me because I tried to fix it immediately. I didn't give them the runaround. I didn't say, "Okay, I'll call you back." I was like, "I am so sorry. I'm new at this. I know that's not an excuse. What do you need me to do? I will do
Yeah.
right now."
Yeah.
And they've been very, very kind to me. And you usually get a warning. That's one thing that's kind of nice is they'll give you a warning like, "Hey, you're dumb. Do it this way." And you're
This
like,
is
"Okay,
wrong.
sorry. We can fix it." Yeah. It's not bad wrong. It's badong. So and that's from a movie for those of you that don't know that one. But just be willing to fix it.
Yeah.
And they are always willing to work with you. I've yet to come across, I've done taxes in 7 states now with people in front of me, and I have yet to have somebody be rude to me about it.
Yeah.
So, because they want their money and they don't want a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And if you're polite and smile, they're usually very willing to help you.
Yeah. And we're going to be going
So,
internationally too later in the year.
yes.
So once we
God,
when we figure that
so
out
nervous
too,
about
oh, it's going to be great. It's
Canada.
going to be wonderful. Don't be nervous. It's going to be great.
No, I just
But
don't
when
know
we figure that
Canadian
out,
taxes.
I know when we figure that out, we'll do
That's-
another one to talk about with you guys because that's going to be a whole other ball game.
Yeah,
But
it
yeah,
is.
being willing to work with them and be like, "Hey, I want to figure this out. I don't want to do this wrong."
Um,
They will like they'll help you. So, but don't be afraid
mhm.
to ask. Don't feel like
Yeah.
it's a stupid question. Everybody's
Mhm.
like, if you're not a tax person, you you shouldn't know this stuff. Like this isn't stuff that is just common knowledge. So,
Mhm.
don't be afraid to ask the stupid questions.
And I said this to another vendor where they're like, "I just feel so embarrassed to ask." I was like, "Well, think of it like this. If you're a cardiologist, you know the answers. I only know the basic bitch stuff about a heart.
Yeah.
So would it be stupid if I have a heart attack to ask the cardiologist, 'Hey, what's going on?' No, it's the same idea. They're
Yep.
specialists, and tax law is difficult and it changes depending on where you are, what's your, social economic status is, like everything changes. And adding the small business element, even if you only do one show a year, it changes things. So just be willing to ask and to do some research. That's the best thing I can recommend. And yeah, as far as insurance, this is one that always surprises me when people don't have it. Um,
Oof.
Insurance is something you need for your business. Now, again, I'm not an insurance provider. I don't advocate that I know anything about insurance and what is best for your business. I can only share with you what I've done for mine. Most events will require you to have up to a $100,000 of coverage. That generally means, generally speaking, that if somebody gets hurt, if you get hurt, if product gets damaged, if shit breaks, that you are covered. It's mostly a liability thing if somebody else gets hurt, or
Yeah.
if your tent, if you're doing an outdoor thing, blows into someone else's tent. It's kind of like, for those of you that are renters, you have renters insurance, and the people that own the house or own the apartment have their own insurance. Or even like cars, you have your own insurance, somebody else has their insurance, and everyone is covered.
Yeah.
That's kind of the idea. The type of insurance that I got also covers loss of property. And what I mean by that is, because I fly a lot, if they lose my bags and I cannot do anything at my event because all my product is in there, I get paid for what I lost. Even if they recover my bags later because they were not there when I needed them, there
Yeah.
is a coverage for that.
You
And
lost
that
that
has given
business.
me, yeah, it's giving me peace of mind. Also, if shit gets broken in my bag, as long as I did my best due diligence, and that's, you're gonna hear that word a lot, due diligence, of packing my things so that they don't break, it's generally covered. And submitting forms and things like that, it sounds scary. I actually have somebody that does my insurance for me. She's wonderful, and I just ask her questions and she answers me. Some events you go to, they ask for proof of insurance, or you have to attach it to an email ahead of time, or you have to have it when you apply. And it's just like your car insurance. It'll have a
Yeah.
start date, an end date, and it shows the coverage.
Yeah.
Again, that number they're looking for is usually 100,000. I've only had one place that asked for up to 1 million. And I was like, okay. They wanted over 1 million or something like that. So I contacted my sale or my insurance person. I'm like, listen, this is what they want. And on the proof of insurance, they wanted actually to say the event name, the address, and the dates. And she's like, no problem, I'll get that to you this afternoon. Your payment this month will be $55 instead of 30. I shit you not, I pay $30 a month for my insurance to be covered with all of that. And because it's a requirement, that's not bad. And again, back to taxes, insurance is a category that you have to report as a deductible as well.
Yeah.
So having insurance really will work out for you. Being out the money is hard. And I've done that once because I thought the insurance that I had would cover it, and it didn't. So I had to expand my account. And so a
Yeah.
lot of these people that are insurance people, you just tell them what you're doing. Be like, hey, I'm doing a lot of outdoor events. I don't travel. I don't leave my state. It's just driving. And they'll even cover stuff in your car if it gets broken, like if you want them to cover that. So there's a lot of red tape with it. There's a lot of confusing things that sound very convoluted, that are hard to understand with insurance. Ask questions. I mean, there's a reason why people specialize in this, just like there's
There's no
people that
stupid
specialize in
questions.
real estate.
Yep.
Even in like real estate, you would think it'd be easy. Like, I want to sell my house, I want to buy that one. Here's my money. But it isn't. They have to take these classes, they have to be qualified, they have to do all this stuff. So utilize that because that's what you're paying for.
Yeah.
And a lot of these insurance people, they get paid in different ways. Sometimes they get paid by the hour, sometimes they get paid by the program, sometimes they get paid in a lot of different ways, just like travel agents. So depending on what works for you, contact some people, but don't be afraid to ask multiple companies. You can ask them for quotes. Legally, they have to provide them.
Yeah.
With full disclosure. So, and some insurance can be done through, if you have, I know USAA does some stuff. Again, I don't know much about that, but I know a lot of people that listen to our podcast are former veterans, or sorry, not former veterans, it's the wrong word, who are veterans, and they have USAA, or they're children of veterans. They have access to that as well. So be sure to edit that out for me, Heather, because that was mean. Can't say that. And there's just a lot of ways out there. So, just contact some people, talk to some people, get quotes. But realize that if you don't have proof of insurance, especially if they come by or if the fire marshal comes by, they will shut you down as well because you're not covered. So, all I can say about it is just research and read, but I would not recommend.
And ask questions and talk to people. These are the little things that will keep your business running and keep your booth going, because you want that to happen. Like, as Jade has said, she's a creative. This isn't what she does. She doesn't understand that world, but she did the homework. She figured it out because she wants this business to thrive. She wants her booth to thrive, and we want yours to as well. So do that homework. Don't get kicked out by the fire marshal because you forgot to get your insurance or you don't want to pay taxes. Like, don't do stupid stuff like that. Get the little thing. It was $5. Whatever it is in your state. But just do what you're supposed to do, because we want you to survive. We want you to thrive. Oh,
We want
and
you to
survive,
thrive.
whatever. We want you to do so well that we see you at every convention. And so just pay attention to what you're needing and what they're asking of you and figure it out. And don't be afraid to ask the stupid questions. Stupid
And a
questions.
lot
They're
of
not stupid.
times the comprehensive questions is probably
Yeah.
a better way to say that. It's just like, what don't I know? And typically the event managers will have these answers too. You can ask them like, okay, what is a special events tax? And they'll be like, okay, it's basically this, but here's this person's number, here's their email, contact them. And it literally, these people are paid by the government to answer your questions.
Yeah.
So don't feel like you're bothering them. I know I felt like I was bothering people when I was asking questions because I felt like I'm not accustomed to not knowing general information, but this is so specific that I was like, I don't know what I'm asking.
That's a
So
very personal
yeah,
thing
don't
for
be,
you too. You always feel like you're bothering people if you ask
I
for
do, I
anything.
do. I feel like I'm bothering people especially if I can't find the answer myself. But there are resources out there. You can always check on the internet first. I know when I talked to my insurance person, it was a 10-minute conversation. And that was 10 minutes that I'd happily do. I do that daily
Yep.
if I had to be covered as well as I am,
Yep.
and at the price point that I was at. So,
Yep.
and again, insurance doesn't have to be expensive. I've seen some where you can buy it literally for the day of for $15
Yeah.
if you have to have insurance for one day. So there are definitely ways around it, but just try to cover your bases the best you possibly can. And if you make a mistake, just be willing to fix it. People
Yep.
are so willing to work with you if you were trying your very best to do it right. If you're
Don't be a
being
dick.
negligent, yeah, basically, if you're being a dick, if you're being negligent, you're gonna get hit with fines and stuff. But just do your best. That's all you can do. And again, full disclosure, we are not tax accountants, we are not insurance agents. We don't know any of this information down
We're
to the
barely even numbers people. Like
yes, we're barely even numbers people. We're just sharing with you what we know, what works for us. A special thank you to Nerdy Girl Podcast for sponsoring this episode, and we will see you next time.